Hey, Pat Rigsby here, and I'm back with the third part in our three-part series that my wife Holly and I did on blending personal and professional together successfully as spouses, parents, and business owners. I think that we've covered so much ground on the first two episodes. We've got one more to go. And just so you know, this was a private training originally that we did for clients of our Business Growth Accelerator and Ideal Business Mastermind programs. And it has been something that we wanted to share with them. Well, while we're coaching them to grow their businesses, we also want them to have their ideal business, to make sure they're successful personally and professionally. So if that's something you're interested in, and after listening to some of this, you'd like more coaching on making sure that you are not only achieving your business goals, but also doing it in a way that allows you to be successful personally as well, be sure to check out Business Growth Accelerator and Business Growth Alliance. All right, let's get to this episode. Welcome to the Fitness Business School with Pat Rigsby, the podcast for fitness entrepreneurs who want to make more income, have greater impact, and enjoy more freedom in their ideal business. If you'd like an accelerated route to these goals, email me at pat@patrigsby.com and put BGA in the subject line, and I'll get you all the details about our Business Growth Accelerator program.
Yep.
What? So strange. All right, so we talked about the care being the focal point. Now let's get into just a few kind of practical ways to put this into action. You're the one who used the word routines, so let's start with that.
Oh my, okay. Routines, yes, routine. We need routines to help us stay on track, to stay focused, to help reduce decision fatigue. Routines are great because they help us to feel comfortable about our day. They give us our rhythms. So yes, we talk a lot about morning routines, but we need to see where we're also installing other routines throughout our day and making sure our family members have routines as well. Because I think that's really that's like a great operating system for the family as a whole, because that's what I think alludes to being able to find your rhythm. Because when things are off, it can always go back to there's something out of place with routine, and we can go back and do a quick fix or tweak it and make it better in some way.
So what's interesting to me is business owners invariably come to me and say, I want more systems. I want to have a systemized business because they think it reduces stress, right? They think, okay, when I have these systems in place, my life's going to be so much easier. Well, that's basically all a routine is, right? She even used the word an operating system, right? So having routines definitely, we all hear about, Steve Jobs wore the same outfit. And since then, we've seen all sorts of people kind of do that same thing. Same outfit every day and same behaviors. Like, the whole idea here is, yes, it reduces decision fatigue. Like, that was, I think some of the premise of where people went with it. But in short, I just think in terms of routines, make your life easier. They're things that we don't have to think about very much, and so we're not continually having to course correct. We're not having to put a lot of time into teaching somebody a different way of doing things. So having routines individually, having routines together are going to allow you to have what I would consider a lower friction way of peacefully kind of blending personal and professional. And I think that it's probably important to have, Holly talks about our morning routine. I think it's probably important for us to have a kind of a closing routine, a transition where, I know for me, one of the big things is when I write, it's set over to the side there, in my planner to kind of close up
That's
the day.
Mine.
Oh,
Don't
no.
touch my planner.
No, I can't.
Oh, it's behind you.
Yeah, so I'm good. So it was a prop, Paul. I don't need to do anything with it. But like when I write in my planner, then basically what I'm doing is saying, okay, I know how today went. I did my review. I have tomorrow mapped out. I feel okay to close the book on today professionally. And for me, that's just a peace of mind thing, right? I think the reading thing probably for me is a peace of mind that even if I didn't get to pay attention to a course or listen to a podcast or whatever else today, it's kind of that peace of mind thing where I know that if I do this, then I've at least learned something. I've at least, hopefully bettered myself in some fashion. So having those, sometimes it's just as simple as, okay, it allows me to just kind of move through my day and check the boxes I want to check, and so I can be fully present doing the next thing. Because having been at a different place professionally where, I'm out playing ball with Alex, throwing wiffle balls to him when he's 3 or 4 years old, and I'm sitting there thinking about work, and I'm worried about work, and I'm not present, and it just hit me. I'm like, man, this isn't right. So I can promise you, I'm never thinking about business stuff or checking my phone when I'm out playing ball with him, or, when Tyler and I are shooting basketball, or when we're at a baseball tournament on the weekends. And I think that it's important to have these routines in place that allow you to feel like, okay, I'm getting done what I should be getting done, but then I'm okay letting go and moving to the next thing.
I mean, structure is what gives you freedom, and it prevents the drift that you talked about before.
So that seems like a fun transition to planning, and you're the planning person. And we talk about planning a lot. Holly talks about planning a ton. So is there anything as it relates to blending personal and professional successfully that you want to touch on with planning?
When it comes to planning, I think it would go back to making it part of your routine. And we know that habits are very important, that we're taking care of those each day. So having something that triggers you to open your planner, have it open, that you have checkpoints throughout the day. So it's not, you don't put all of this work into a weekly review and preview, design your day, and then not use it. So what are you doing to set yourself up to successfully check in with your planner? I talk about it as being your compass. So just because you have it written down doesn't mean it's going to happen the exact way that you have it written down, but it allows you to guide your decision making if and when, I should say when the day goes sideways, because that way you don't drift, you don't get off track. You're able to say, you know what, I'm done enough for today. I can close this up, and I know that this is what I'm going to take with me tomorrow. Because one of the things that I have been implementing too is that, yes, end of day routine. I love the fact that I have an office now. So like my end of day routine is actually leaving my office. So I'm done with work when I leave my office. Yes, there's times when I bring my laptop up with me, but it's basically, that's that walk through that doorway, it's closed. And what I'll do to prevent me from going back down and extending and drifting is I'll jot down a couple things on a note card that I want to remember the next morning, and that helps kind of give me a jump start to checking my planner to make sure I'm on track, and these are the important things that I don't want to forget as I get my day going.
So I think the only other thing that I would talk about when it comes to planning, I've already touched on in the first video when we talked about all those care concepts, is I think that hopefully we're all embracing, at least to some degree, the importance of planning when it comes to professional, right? We have to plan not only, hey, I need to allocate a container of time for marketing, but what am I going to do during that time? What am I specifically going to accomplish? Well, that's great, but are we planning for all those other things that we say are important to us? Are we planning enough time to spend time with the people that we care about? Are we planning time for self-care? Do we have appointments? The way that I've looked at this for a long time is if I'm willing to schedule an appointment for somebody who's going to pay me 60 or 70 bucks to come in and train with me for an hour, I should probably be willing to schedule a block of time to go hang out with my kid. A container of time. Yes, Holly has her terminology that I'm learning, right? it's not quite a routine yet. So I think that's important. And some people, they'll have a little bit of pushback to it because it doesn't feel organic enough. It doesn't feel like, well, hey, you know what, you shouldn't have to plan time to spend. No, if it's important to you, we should make sure that there is a specific container of time for it.
It's protecting that
Yes.
time. It's protecting it. Writing it down is protecting it.
I actually, last week I had a conversation via email with somebody who wanted to schedule a call, and I had already allocated a container of time to take Alex to neurofeedback. And so I said, okay, that's spoken for. And, the client was wonderful, and they're like, hey, that's great. And they got it, but I know him well enough to know that he would get it. But I think that's important, and I can't tell you the number of times that I've had somebody who would kind of, be frustrated, maybe the right word, because I had time allocated to do something personally. I had time to do something else, and I wouldn't rearrange that on their behalf. Then, so we actually took a quick intermission here because Alex needed some science materials for
That I don't
for
have.
class. Yeah, we don't have any of that. But people will get a little bit frustrated because maybe that's not the way that they operate. But in all honesty, for me, that illustrates two things. One, if the person can't get past that and see it the other way, that's probably a red flag, and that's not somebody that I want to work with. But then, two, that's what my job is, to help people find that rhythm between personal and professional and make sure that they understand how to operate in a way that is fulfilling to them. Because we've all heard the examples of when somebody's on their deathbed, they never say they wish they worked more or something like that, right? They'll talk about the time they should have spent with loved ones or the experiences they should have had, and that's clearly a future pacing way to think about it. But I'm thinking about it in the moment that, okay, Alex is 10, and I see how quickly 10 turns into 19. And elementary school kids turn into college students. And I don't want to miss any of it because, I still, love Tyler just as much, but the experiences are different, right? And he's at a different place along his journey, and I want to be there for all of it for both of them. And I'm not willing to compromise on that. And so I think the way that we say I'm not willing to compromise on something is to plan it and say, this is our time. And so like this week, while we're gone, it's kind of a working vacation. Alex has school. I've got, some Zooms this week, and I've got time allocated to jump into the Facebook groups, to answer emails, to do some writing. But when we're doing our stuff as a family, I can assure you, I won't be responding to people's text messages. I won't be responding to emails. The time that I'm on my Zoom will be the time that I'm on my Zoom, and that's what that's for. But then this other time is for the experiences and memories that we're going to have together.
Something I thought of when you were talking about that too is that when we plan our day, this is not just checking things off. How many things did I get done today? Having a plan is being able to look back and say, was this time well spent?
That's good. I thought you were going to talk about needing wax paper and paper plates for science class. So
why was that not on the list of things they needed?
Shocking. All right. So the only other thing, and it's interesting, right? We spent like an hour talking about care in that video, but I think understanding the root of how you operate successfully personally and professionally, and understanding kind of how you need to think and how you need to be wired is more important than the tactical side. I think so many people get caught up in the tactical side of things and they lose sight of the bigger picture. I'm going to give you one example before we move into this last piece. So we're filming this on Wednesday, right? So I sent out a message to just some former clients, just checking in on them. Like, not current clients, just checking in and say, hey, let me know how things are going. I know it's been an interesting last year. And no pitch, no motive, no win back, just checking in, because these are relationships, and just because somebody's journey doesn't perfectly line up with mine doesn't mean I don't care about them. So checked in. Yet to this point, I think 3 of them have already rejoined some program, and I don't think it's because I came with some strong pitch, because there never was. I mean, I ask, hey, is there anything I can do to help? And then it's like, well, as a matter of fact, mind you, they had been getting all the daily emails. They had been getting the engagement offers and seeing the super signature and all this stuff, but they didn't do anything with it. But when I made sure that it was 100% apparent that, hey, I care where you're at, I care what's going on, the dialogue just led to, hey, maybe we should work together again. And I think that's important in this kind of idea, that it makes your professional life easier if you think in terms of like these principles, because that's the last piece of this, right? Like, how are we wired? What's important to us? Because if you have principles, if you have these guardrails in place, like, this is how I'm going to do things, for me, it makes decision making far easier. There are things that just, I mean, if somebody asks me, hey, can you do a sales call at 6:30 p.m., it's not even a consideration, right? It's just not even on my radar. Even if, I get it, they're in different time zones or whatever else, but it's like, well, I would never do a coaching call with you at 6:30 p.m. So I'm not going to imply that I'm accessible at this time in order to get you to buy something, right? I'm going to stay within my guardrails. I'm going to adhere to my principles. And as I create my routines and as I use my planner, there are these guiding concepts or principles or ideals that help me shape my day. And it goes back to all that stuff we talked about during the first video, all the care stuff. It's like, if I think this way and operate this way, then the day-to-day decision-making, the tactics get a lot easier. So what do you have for us on principles or guardrails or whatever?
Well, I was looking at that word, and I
wondered
if
you think it was like pickles?
No, I thought it says priorities.
Yeah, well.
Because that's a T.
Okay, well, you can talk about priorities.
You're my priority.
And we've broken the 3rd wall, right? I'm going to look at Paul like, what? Or the 4th wall. That's what that is, right?
Priorities.
We've jumped the shark on video number 2, in case you've wondered.
Really, I do think that says priorities.
It may, I don't know. I told you, my handwriting is not going to be our barometer for success.
So priorities are like your GPS to your goals. I think it's important that you're aware of what your priorities are each week, so that way you can break them down into those smaller action steps that you're taking each day, because like Patrick said, they help guide your decisions. So if you said that it is important for you to walk every single morning, then no matter what pops up during the day, you're going to make sure that you stick to that commitment to yourself. So I look at priorities as they're commitments. They are commitments that you made. So it's not just I talk the talk, I actually walk the walk. So if it's important for you to work on your relationship with your husband, that's going to be reflective in how you spend your time during the day. It's not just this wordplay and something that you put out there.
So you go sit in your office and avoid me? Is that what it is? Oh.
So I think that goes back to having a daily written plan. It's not just speaking about what matters to you. It's you actually taking that spoken word, making it into a written plan that you actually follow through. And once again, coming back to that allows you to look back at your day and say, was this time well spent?
We call that transcription.
Yeah.
Oh. No. So, all right. Well, priorities, principles, like, to be honest, like the whole idea, we've talked about guardrails at various points, like it all kind of, I guess, hinges on the same stuff. What's important to you? How are you going to measure success? And I will tell you that early on, business owners often measure success by, hey, I showed them I can do it, and I've hit a certain revenue benchmark or a number of clients or a number of members or whatever else. And I can tell you that, I mean, I've gone through every bit of this. Like, hey, when we hit this list in Entrepreneur Magazine, or when we get to this stage of revenue, I'll have made it. I'll be successful. And, you know, ultimately, you know, it's temporary, it's fleeting, and it's hollow. So I think you're better off thinking in terms of what is important to me, and if things were the way that I aspire for them to be, what would that look like? And then it allows us to kind of shape things. Like if your priorities, if your ideal business allows you to take vacations with your family and allows you to spend time with the people that you care about or whatever else, then you need to start making decisions that allow you to do some of that stuff now. And so maybe, you know, you're not in a place to do all the things in the way that you would like to do then. I mean, I can tell you that we've gone from me getting on Craigslist to try to find discount local theme, like amusement park tickets, to being able to hire private tour guides at Disney World. But the priorities were never one bit different, right? It was like, we want to share this time together and create some memories and experiences with our family. So you can do different things at different stages that still line up 100% with where you want to go. And maybe you're not in a position, maybe you want to be home every night for dinner, and currently you're home no nights for dinner to be with family. Well, there's something that you can do in the next 3 or 4 months to carve out one night a week. And so if you decide, hey, this is important to me, you're going to reverse engineer a plan. You're going to work with us to craft a plan, and you're going to make it a reality. So I think if you have those guardrails in place, if you have, did you say priorities? Was that the word?
Priorities.
All right. So if you've got that, like, I mean, I think in the ideal business formula, I have the ideal principles, right? The acronym IDEAL. And it's all the same concept. Like, what is important to you? Not what other people tell you is important, not artificial benchmarks that don't actually matter in your day-to-day life. What is important to you?
And I want to go back to, he keeps talking about guardrails. Just to make it very clear, it's important that you have guardrails, yes, throughout your routines and your days, but especially when it comes to your priorities. And if you think about guardrails as is on a road, they are positioned in places where it's typical to make a wrong turn. So you have to kind of know ahead of time what could potentially distract you from staying focused on your priorities, because priorities are important, but they're not urgent. And we tend to get distracted by the urgents and the little fires that we have to put out each day. So we know that about ourselves. So where do we need to put up those guardrails to protect the time that we are investing and spending in the things that matter most to us?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I can't tell you the number of clients that I've had act to me as if they are on call, right? If somebody texts me, if somebody emails me, if somebody does this or that, I have to respond instantly. And when somebody messages you, they're saying, this is when I had time available, and this is when this was important to me, or this is when this was on my mind. They don't get to decide when that is the case for you. And that's been one of the downsides of technology, right? Like, we've plenty of upsides about technology, but one of the downsides of technology is it makes us seem like 24/7 accessible. And we're not. We're as accessible as we choose to be. You don't have to answer your phone when it rings. I can tell you that if the name is not somebody I know or it's not a scheduled call, I don't answer it, period. And somebody else deciding it's important for them to call me is not a prerequisite for it to be important for me to talk to them. So if somebody texts me, then I'm kind of forward thinking on it. I'm saying, okay, well, that means they're available right now. So this doesn't mean that it necessarily is just a reply. It may turn into a conversation. And I haven't allocated a container of time for a conversation right now. So I don't think that we need to feel like we're on call. And frankly, unless you're charging some incredible monthly premium, then the idea that somebody should be able to have you on call is kind of absurd, right? Like if somebody's paying you $150 a month to be part of what you do, it's $5 a day. They don't get on call anything for $5 a day with a human being. Nothing. So just keep that in mind. Understand that your time is kind of the centerpiece of all of this, right? Like, that's why planning is so important. That's why we do a call or a Zoom every week about planning, because your time is the centerpiece of all of it. You get to vote with your time about what is actually important to you, not what you say is important to you. You get to vote with your time as to whether or not you're going to go out and care for prospects and clients and loved ones, or you're going to say, no, I want to grow my business. So understand that when somebody is trying to borrow or take or steal some of your time, depending on the person and the motives, then that's not your obligation to comply, right? Better to do things on your terms because, it's your life. And what is urgent to them, as she alluded to, may not be urgent to you. Even if it's important to you, it doesn't mean that it's urgent, and not replying within 30 seconds is not an indication that you don't care about what they have going on. It's an indication that you care about what you have going on. So, any final thoughts on personal, professional, your fancy green outfit, anything?
Well, what you were talking about, using your time as votes, it makes me think of that quote, that time is the only thing that demonstrates what you care about. So that just kind of reinforced all of that. And that's why we need to really take a look at taking better care of our time, because that spills over into every single avenue that we've covered. That's what it all boils down to.
What's interesting is you'll hear a lot of people say you can find out what people care about when you look at their calendar or when you look at their bank account. The bank account part of it is far less relevant. I don't want to say it's completely irrelevant, but it's close. Because think about the number of people who buy books but never open them. They spent money on it, but they never cared about it enough to allocate time to read it, right? And in fact, they'll say that only 27% of Kindle books are read through chapter 1. So it tells you, I'm willing to spend money on this thing, but it's not important enough for me to allocate my time. So time is where the focal point is, right? Time is what really, really matters. I think that's where we've really tried to spend so much of it creating experiences and shared windows of time or shared moments with the people that we care about, because the financial side of it, you can do things to change the experiences, or maybe even to lower the friction or enhance the experiences. But the vote with your time for anything that's important to you is the priority. If you're in this program watching this video, you can pay for it, but if you don't execute, if you don't allocate time to it, you don't get the outcome. You don't get an outcome unless you've invested time in that side of it. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Fitness Business School. And before you go, I have a quick announcement. When I first connect with a fitness business owner, they almost always ask me, how can I get more leads, or how can I get more clients? Well, I have an exclusive offer for you, and it's going to help you do just that. As a listener of this show, you can test drive Fitness Lead Academy for 6 full weeks for just $1. Fitness Lead Academy is a one-of-a-kind program where you get done-for-you marketing tools and coaching to attract more qualified prospects and to convert them into paying clients. Imagine having 3 marketing emails written for you each and every week, 4 easy-to-deploy promotions provided to you that are proven to convert and they're ready to use, and proven ads and social media posts given to you each and every month as well. Plus, you have access to 3 weekly live video coaching sessions to help you with everything from dialing in your brand to navigating things like building funnels and getting ads approved. You get all of this and more when you join Fitness Lead Academy. And to prove that FLA can serve you as your virtual marketing department and not only save you plenty of time, but also consistently bring you more leads and clients, you can get access to the entire coaching program for 6 full weeks, again, for just $1. If it delivers for you in the way that I expect it will, you can continue on for just $199 a month. So basically, just 1 additional client each month and you're ROI positive. And I'm sure that if you apply what we give you, you're gonna get more than just 1 additional client each month, and you're gonna likely save at least 10 hours a month of work too. To take advantage of this special offer, just go to testdrivefla.com. Try it out for 6 full weeks. If it's not what you're looking for, you can cancel at any time. Just go to testdrivefla.com to get started.